Hello guys, today we are going to see a game that's played between Nigel Short and Jan Timman in the year 1991. Nigel Short is an English grandmaster, has been in the top for a very long time. Timman is a Dutch grandmaster, he's been in the top for a very long period of time. He's been in the top when the Russians dominated the game during the 70s and 80s and the starting of the 90s. He's a very strong player and Short is a very strong player. Short is known for his amazing attacking skills. Let's see what happens in the game between Timman and Short. Short opens the game with e4. Timman plays knight f6, e5, attacking the knight, knight d5, d4, d6, all very standard stuff. Knight f3, it's a more positional variation. It leads to positions where white will have a very small advantage, but a standard steady advantage. Let's see in that way. Timman plays g6, which is not played much nowadays. The move that played these days, which is more reliable, at least in much complex situations, is not this. Sorry, d into e5, and after knight into e5, let's say the game goes like c6 or g6. Let's say the game goes on. Timman choices g6, bishop c4, a very logical move, attacking the piece and developing at the same time. Knight b6, the knight retreats, bishop b3. The bishop is in a very dangerous diagonal, leads to some dangerous tricks if not careful. Bishop g7, developing the piece and putting pressure on the center at the same time. Not to forget, if let's say knight 8 bd7, knight 8 d7, there's an amazing sacrifice on the way after knight g5. Very good move. Let's say e6, very simple move. Bishop into e6. We have to take the bishop, otherwise bishop into f7, it's going to be nasty. F into e6, knight into e6, queen e7, the only square, or h4, let's say, both leads to the same. Knight into c7 wins the piece and winning in this position. After bishop g7, queen e2, to avoid queen trade after d into e5, d into e5 and queen d1. We won't want to lead those kind of situations. After queen e2, knight c6, a simple developing move, putting pressure on the e5 pawn at the same time. Castle, castle. And the last move I said, knight c6 puts pressure on the e5 pawn. Then there must be a question that why not bishop g4, putting much pressure to the e5 pawn? The answer to this question is, don't forget about the tactics on f7 square. Bishop into f7, king into f7, knight g5, and we are winning. Simple. Okay, castle, castle. Now the threat is bishop g4. We don't have the bishop f7 things now, so h3, a5, a5 and a4. I don't know what changes does this make in the position, but it's played very standard moves. D into e5. Black don't have much moves in this position other than this move. D into e5. Knight d4. Knight d4. Queen d4. Now what has happened in this position? Black has exchanged some pieces, which is very good for him, but at the same time he is not equalizing. It's still worse. Now what we have to do as white? Black is putting pressure on the e5 pawn. We have to support the pawn. Rook e1. Very simple. e6. The bad thing starts from here. As we have seen in the last video, there were some weaknesses on the dark squares. I hate having an e6, f7, g7, sorry, e6, f7, h6, g7 structure when the opponent's pawn is on e5. This game is a good example of other issues of having dark square weaknesses when there's a fiancetta bishop. Let's say the better move is simple developing move. The developing moves are always the solution. Bishop d7. This move makes more sense, avoiding considering much weakness on the position. Timman might be afraid of some e6 issues. I don't know why. So he makes e6 himself and also the weaknesses on the dark squares. Knight e2, a simple developing move. The knight is heading towards the f3 square, where it could support the e5 pawn, not the rook and the queen. The major pieces are supposed to be the open files and attacking the king. Knight d5. Timman is centralizing his pieces. Knight f3. Queen c5. Queen is getting back. Queen e4, a very good move. A great move. Heading to h4. Might be some ideas with knight g5, further weakening the king side, followed by some g4 ideas. Queen b4. Timman is trying to take much pieces of the position as he can, trying to trade queens. But a wonderful move. Bishop c4. It must be seen ahead. Knight b6, pinning. b3. Knight into c4, b into c4. We have a very bad structure, but in compensation to that, black's activity is very low. White, the pawn structure doesn't matter anymore. White has to close off black's counterplay long enough to finish the king. Rook e8. Of course, blacks want to control the d file, open d file, but the rook is still forced to be on the bad side. After, let's say, bishop g5 attacking the rook along with the development, rook d7, bishop f6, and a clear advantages for white. Rook e8, rook d1, seizing the d5, and also avoiding from black to develop the bishop to d7, followed by bishop c6, where it is very active. Queen c5. Queen c5, let's say what we have. Just a moment. What we can say. Queen h4. White is following his plan. b6, trying to develop along the active diagonal, followed by this attack on the g2. Bishop e3, excellent move, inclusion. This move pushes the queen to a much worse square, where he must decide now if he wants to go to c6 or f8. He wants to support the king or he wants to attack the opposite king. Timman chooses the opposite king, queen c6, followed by bishop b7 idea, other than the queen f8, defending the king. Bishop h6. White faces two moves. Instead, we can say invested two moves in taking one of the defenders, which is very instructive. Bishop h8, not giving up the dark square. If he gives up the dark square in more than, let's say, 4 or 5 moves, it's going to be mated. Rook d8. If he takes the rook, then queen d8, it's a checkmate. Queen e8, queen d8, checkmate. So he develops the bishop on b7 with active diagonal. Rook a d1, maintaining the pressure. Bishop g7, a very clever move, a tricky move indeed. The threat is bishop into f6, followed by rook d8, rook into d8, rook into d8, and black is a rook up, or else a bishop up. So short plays rook 8 d7, threatens to capture on g7. Let's say a dummy move, bishop a6, bishop into g7, king into g7, queen f7, and mate in few moves. So rook f8 is a forced move, forced to defend on f7. bishop into g7, king into g7, rook 1 d4, bringing more pieces into the attack. Rook a8. Black don't have much moves. He can't come to the open d5. He can't create open files, so he's just playing moves. Don't know what to do. Let's say we can waiting for the method. Queen f7 check, king g8, h4. The beginning of a wonderful idea. We can also play knight h4. Would be a good idea. Bishop e8, king h2, bishop e7. A dummy move. f3, bishop e8. I'm just making dummy moves so that we can visualize the idea what he is going to do. The best move in this position, the mate in let's say 3 moves, knight into g6, h into g6, rook h8, and mate in 1. Next move you can't defend that. Rather than this mating pattern, Najim Shah chooses something beautiful, which is h4, h5. How can White conclude the game? White's position is gorgeous, but where is the mate? What he is going to do? Let's see what he's going to do. The brilliant move is king h2. One piece is needed, and king it is. Timman is completely helpless. Rook c8. Like bishop a8 and bishop e7, he's making some dummy moves. Bishop king g3, brilliant move. Rook c8, king f4, bishop c8, king g5. And the invasion is successful. We are going to make the opposite king. The game is over. Let's see what happens if the king stops the invasion with king s7. Queen into g6. This should end the game. To prevent king's invasion, queen into g6, king h8, queen s6, king g8, and the beautiful king f6. The king acts like a bishop with the usual pattern. There's gonna be a mate on g7. No one can stop it. After king g7, a simple bishop into d7, king g5. Let's say make another dummy move, which has been happening the whole game. Queen c5, queen g7, a checkmate. This is a wonderful game. Very instructive game. I hope you guys like this video. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe to this channel.